After much anticipation, Red Notice has finally arrived on Netflix for everyone to enjoy. And as everyone expected, the Dwayne Johnson, Gal Gadot, and Ryan Reynolds star is a huge hit. Did you know that Dwayne Johnson pranked Ryan Reynolds after the movie was released? After the prank, the Deadpool actor had a great response for him. Let's find out what happened. Firstly, let's look at the fun cast. After its theatrical run, Red Notice is finally gracing everyone's Netflix screens. People are loving the action thriller, especially the great chemistry that all the actors share. The one thing that's undisputable about this movie is that it has an amazing cast, with Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot starring as leads. The movie was all set to make big bucks even before it was released, but what makes the movie special is the friendship between these actors. The cast had some fun working together, and they've been engaging in fun online banter since the release happened. The actors have been posting about the movie regularly on their social media accounts and have even poked fun at each other while they were at it. What was the prank all about? Dwayne Johnson borrowed the Netflix Marquee to have some fun at the expense of his Red Notice co-star. He posted on his Twitter account and accused Reynolds of not paying for his own Netflix account. As you might have expected, Ryan Reynolds had his response at the ready. In a serious tweet directed at Reynolds, Johnson wrote, "While I'm not advocating sharing passwords of streaming services, that would be wrong and you should not do that. I may have heard that some people make trades like this, where they pay for different streaming services and then they share passwords around. So I suppose if Ryan Reynolds does use his mom's account, it's only fair she gets something out of the deal." After he posted this tweet, some fans were worried about how Reynolds would take the joke. Some were wondering whether it would turn into a celebrity feud, and others knew that Reynolds would respond with a playful response of his own, especially because this isn't the first time he's been targeted on social media. Reynolds gets roasted by his wife Blake Lively on social media all the time, so his fans are used to the star having some fun on Twitter. What made things even more interesting was when the original Netflix account on Twitter got involved in the whole joke. What makes it even funnier is that the tweet was about password sharing, a practice the company certainly doesn't endorse. How did Reynolds respond? Reynolds took his time with the perfect response and retweeted Johnson's tweet with the message, "In fairness, my mom uses my OnlyFans account." The reaction was hilarious and the tweet got thousands of likes from around the globe. It was clear that Reynolds was not offended by the little joke and chose to have fun with it. Gal Gadot also joined in the fun and tweeted, "And at Van City Reynolds, eating my fries doesn't mean they don't count. It seems like the whole banter was part of promotions of their movie." And clearly, it was quite successful since the $200 million action heist movie is already Netflix's second most watched movie of all time with 277.9 million hours clocked. Some statistics from Netflix. In Netflix's second week of its top 10 most watched film charts, it reported that Red Notice was the #1 movie from the period of 15th to 21st of November. This is because the movie logged 129.1 million total hours watched. The second position was held by their Vanessa Hudgens franchise threequel, The Princess Switch 3: Romancing the Star, which had a total of 24.77 million hours watched by Netflix subscribers. This movie's insane popularity makes sense since it has several exhilarating set pieces, including a climactic chase scene that could even rival the iconic Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom minecart sequence. But what audiences might not realize is the kind of rollercoaster ride the film's director, Rawson Marshall Thurber, went through to make this project. This project had him wondering if they'd ever make it to the finish line, but things went well for the movie and it even achieved a record-setting deal when it sold to Universal. And even though COVID and crew issues created some bumps in the road, the final product witnessed a massive opening on Netflix recently. What the director feels about the movie. Thurber recently sat down in an interview with Deadline to talk about Red Notice and mentioned how he felt when the film was in its pre-production phase. Since the film took a lot of time to make, Thurber felt like giving up in the middle quite a few times. According to him, he thought that the film would never really be complete, especially because it was a huge production with lots of stars. The pandemic slowed down things for him too, with COVID protocols and restrictions that made scenes almost impossible to shoot. Sometimes the crew had to shut down halfway through shooting because of the pandemic in certain areas. Some of the cast and crew had to be away from their families for 3 whole months because of COVID-19 travel restrictions, and it was very difficult for everyone. But despite the problems created by COVID-19, the team at Netflix was always very supportive. Thurber mentions how they encouraged him throughout his difficult phase. They also kept inquiring when he would return and resume shooting for the movie, and getting encouragement from Netflix must be reassuring. How many days of shooting were there? According to Thurber himself, Red Notice took about 45 days of shooting, but if you were to add in the weekends and necessary preparations, it turns into about 90 days. For Thurber, these 90 days were extremely isolating since the crew stayed at one of 2 hotels that the team bought out, but he had to stay at my place because if there was ever an infection that he was connected to, that then he would have to be sidelined, and a sick director would be disastrous for the movie. So for him, that was the real challenge, being completely isolated and away from his family the whole time. This is also why the crew had to rush with the movie and try to finish the shooting as soon as possible. Some of them even had to work 6 days of the week. Is this an action movie? If you watched the trailer for Red Notice, you might have noticed Johnson and Reynolds joking around and making fun of each other. The movie is designed to be comic relief, but Thurber has also tried to incorporate as much action as he possibly could. He even admitted that this movie is the culmination of all the action movies he has ever made. Other action movies directed by him include Central Intelligence, which starred Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson in lead roles. Another example is Skyscraper, which was a straight action picture, but director Thurber also admits that he could not have made Red Notice without making Skyscraper first, and he is also glad that he did it in this order because he learned a lot during the time he was making Skyscraper. So Red Notice is probably the best movie movie has ever made. Why didn't it release in cinemas? A movie like Red Notice could have very easily had a grand release in theaters, but the producers and the director decided to release it on Netflix. This came as a shock to most people who were expecting the movie to release in theaters, like all other famous action movies. Thurber has also only made movies that have been released theatrically, and the idea it won't be released theatrically was hard for him to accept, but thankfully, approaching Netflix was extremely easy, and the streaming service was also willing to stream the movie once it had been released. Thurber feels that the movie might not have come back from the pandemic and finished if it weren't for Netflix and its support. Why were Ryan and Dwayne selected for their roles? If you've seen the movie already, you might know that the Red Notice features a bit of bromance between Johnson and Reynolds' characters. This is because they both share a special kind of chemistry that you can't fake and is also impossible to invent. Fans feel that both characters bring out the best in each other, and Reynolds couldn't give an amazing performance if Johnson wasn't there to back him up. But casting Johnson in the movie was easier since Thurber had direct access to him. They both discussed the plot, and Johnson told him he wanted to be part of it almost immediately. But casting Reynolds turned to be more of a challenge since Thurber had to write and send him the whole script before waiting for his response. According to the director, Reynolds was asked to respond with a topless picture of B. Arthur if he wanted to be a part of the movie. And as you might have expected, Reynolds loved the script and promptly sent Thurber a topless picture of B. Arthur. And that's how the team came together to create this wonderful movie. And with that, we'll end this video. Thanks for watching.